Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Santon, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. It's been a while actually since I've done a video for my YouTube channel in general. Honestly, it's because the meta was kind of stale, and I didn't really have a deck that I liked that was new-ish that I wanted to show on my YouTube channel. I was still streaming though, so if you could always check me out over on twitch.tv/Santon. Wink, wink. Anyway, though, today's video, though, is going to be a balance patch discussion. By the time this video goes out, the balance patch should be live in a couple of hours. Balance patch 3.6.0, I believe. Lots of changes going on here, and some rule changes as well, which are very divisive in the community, I would say. I'd say a lot of people are overreacting to them, if you ask my opinion, but there's a couple of scary implications with some of these rules changes, which I hope get addressed if they turn out to be as scary as I think they will be. We'll go over all of this, of course. I've already gone through this once on my stream. You can go and check that out over on twitch.tv/Zentit. Gotta plug the Twitch channel. But yeah, lots of changes, lots of champion changes, some non-champion changes, 3 new cards as well. Some new cosmetics, so let's get into the patch. All right then. So, patch 3.6.0, like we said earlier. First off, it's the 2nd anniversary of Runeterra. Yay! So to celebrate that, Riot is giving us some free cosmetics. To get these free cosmetics, you just have to log into the game for 7 days and get your daily login gifts, and you will get these cosmetics that you see here. I believe we can look at them more in depth a little below the, little lower in the patch notes, which we will look at, of course. But it seems like it is 2 skins, 1 skin for Vi, 1 skin for Jinx, a Vi emote, card back, and an icon. So pretty nice, especially really nice because it's free too. We don't have to pay a single cent for any of these. So that's cool. And what do we have up first? New cards. First new card is a Demacia card. Might of the Vanguard. 3 mana slow spell. To play the card, spend all your mana. Okay, so it's like a Thermo Beam. Summon a Dauntless Vanguard. Dauntless Vanguard is a 3 mana 3/3 with no text, other than it being an elite. And then grow its stats to that amount. So, if you just spend the 3 mana, it's a 3/3 like normal. Spend 4 mana, it's a 4/4, 5 mana, 5/5, and so on and so forth. If 9+ mana was spent, grant other allied elites +2/+2. Is this card good? I'm not sure. I still don't really like it. I think it's just a little too clunky. And I feel like I'd rather just play other top-end cards like 6 mana Cythrias, even a Brightsteel formation over this kind of card, even in an elite deck. So, because just getting, I mean, sure, you might say it's a permanent buff. It's a permanent +2/+2. Yes, it's only affecting elites, but you're obviously playing this in a deck that is mostly, if not all, elite units. 9 mana is a lot of mana, though, chat. That's the issue. You might say, like, well, it works as, even if you're not spending 9 mana, you can still use it to fill the curve. I mean, okay, let's, like, look at all the other spots for not 9 mana. 3 mana 3/3, whatever. 4 mana 4/4, it's okay. 5 mana 5/5 is okay. Like, none of those spots are good. It's like a good curve filler, exactly. But do I even want to fill out the curve? Well, I feel like a lot of the time I'll be tempted to try and spend 9 mana. And then, of course, it's a huge tempo loss if it gets countered, too, which is a possibility. Both Rite of Negation and Deny are cards. Rite of Negation's pretty popular right now, too. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but I can see it as like a 1 or a 2 of in elite decks, but I feel like I'd rather just play other Demacia endgame cards like 6 or even 10 mana Cythria or Brightsteel formation. But who knows, maybe it's a good finisher for elites. Next card up, for Glory. 6 mana card, some reputation support here. Slow speed spell. Slow speed, gross. Reputation, it now costs 3. Okay, looking a little bit better now. So what's it do? Summon 2 Trifarian Glory Seekers. Trifarian Glory Seekers are the 2-mana 5/1s in Noxus, which are 5/1 challengers that cannot block. So this card sucked at 6 mana. Like a lot of Reputation cards, before Reputation is active, the card kind of sucks. And then when your Reputation is active, the card is kind of decent. Would I play this in a Reputation deck, though? Maybe. So there are 2 decks that actually achieve Reputation. Neither of them are really that popular, but LeBlanc Severe and Ashe LeBlanc. Would I play this in either of those decks? I could see myself playing it in maybe Ashe LeBlanc. I mean, honestly, maybe even in Ashe Severe, but it just feels so average. Not bad, but it's just like, it's like, okay. This feels like the card that's like a filler card. This is the card that you're looking at when you're building your deck and you're like, I need cards to cut for this other card. This is it. So yeah, not a fan of it. I feel like, sure, 2 Glory Seekers is pretty good, but I feel like by the time you actually have Reputation active, that's around like, what, turn 5, maybe, on average? Maybe turn 6 on average? 2 Glory Seekers are not doing too much. I mean, getting 2 challengers is nice, though. Being able to drag scary things and then comboing with Ashe and Freljord and freezes is kind of nice, though. So, I don't know. I can see some potential here, but I'm not a big fan of it. Pretty nice, though, for Pharaoh's Financier. I've mentioned this before when I was talking about it on stream. It is a 6-mana card. So Pharaoh's Financier can find this if you're playing Financier in Noxus. So PNZ Noxus. What's a PNZ Noxus deck? Tribeam. I can definitely see myself playing Financier, seeing this as a Tribeam player and being like, okay, yeah, I'm not casting Reputation, but I think 6 mana for 2 Glory Seekers is not terrible. Like, sure, you're overpaying, but you got it from a Pharaoh's Financier. It's a free card, quote-unquote free card. So I like it as a Financier target in Noxus. And plus, Noxus has some pretty bad Financier targets. So it's nice that Noxus has another nice Financier target. Because most of the time you really just hit things from PNZ and Financier like Shock Blast or Progress Day. And our third card that's new is some Udyr synergy. An Udyr card. Inner Beast is a 2-mana burst speed spell. Okay, I like that spell speed. Give an ally +1/+1 this round. Create a stance swap in hand. I've seen a lot of people saying this card is better Pale Cascade. No. I don't think it is better Pale Cascade. I think it's actually a little worse because I feel like cycling through your deck is a little bit better than creating a stance swap. But I understand what they're saying, and I agree. I do agree this is basically Freljord's Pale Cascade. Not cycling through your deck is bad, but in the right matchup, Inner Beast is, well, a beast of a card. Against an aggro deck, you can get Ram Stance. You can use it just to get more stances in general to buff your units, so give things that want to live, regen, give big stuff some Overwhelm, maybe just give some stuff some stats. It seems pretty solid. And of course, the +1/+1 just lets you win combats as well, so I'm a big fan of this card. I'm not sure if I would play this outside of Udyr, though, but I could even see this in Ashe LeBlanc. Ashe LeBlanc always seemed to have a problem with decks that try to go wide, like small but wide. So very aggressive decks. So Inner Beast, I kind of like it. Use it to help protect your LeBlancs, your Ashes, and then use Ram Stance to get a Ice Shards going on. So yeah, I like this card. I think it's definitely got some legs, and it might be a not meta defining, but it will definitely be something to consider for a lot of your Freljord decks. And now, the card updates, the balance changes. First off, we got Ashe. Ashe, her level up condition has been changed. Everything else about her is still the same, but now to level up Ashe, instead of frostbiting 4 enemies, you decrease 4+ enemies power to 0. This barely changes Ashe, okay? Very, very, very rarely are you reducing a unit's power to 0 in an Ashe deck. You might say like Oh, Troll Chant. Troll Chant's probably the most popular, most common way to see that happening in an Ashe deck. The only other things I can think of is maybe Quicksand, but then you're like Ashe, Freljord, Shurima, which Ashe and Freljord Shurima doesn't sound that great. Maybe like Ashe Action mid-range seems kind of interesting, so I don't know. Not a big fan of this change, mostly because it doesn't seem like it's going to change much about Ashe, but it's nice. It's a nice small buff. Darius, this is not a buff. Darius now says to level him up, I see the enemy Nexus has half of its starting health. This is literally just a change for Path of Champions. They admit it here. This does not change anything about ladder, ranked, standard, constructed, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, this doesn't change anything for PvP. So, whatever. Galio got 1 extra health. He's now an O10 at level 2. Cool. Whatever. It's nice. Like, there's not much to talk about. Some of these champs, I'll be honest with you, there's not much to talk about with them. Galio's one of them. It's like, yeah, it's nice that he's 1 extra health when he levels up. But whatever. I guess it makes him a little... Well, no, I was going to say it makes him a little easier to level up, but this 1 extra health is only level 2 Galio. So yeah, whatever. It's fine. Garen, though, here's our first buff that actually feels like it's doing something. So Garen still doing all the same stuff he was doing before, but now he has an extra line of text. He actually does something now besides being a big boy with regen. When Garen is summoned, specifically summoned, so, you know, you can do some, like, cute resummon stuff with Chronicler if you want. But when Garen is summoned, give other allies +1/+1 this round. When he levels up, it's still just +1/+1, and he does this whole round start rally kind of stuff when he levels up. That's the only changes. +1/+1 when he's summoned for his allies. Doesn't buff himself, which is nice. But this is scary. You might say it's only a temporary buff, streamer. Yeah, but it also does give that pseudo healing effect that temporary buffs give you. You know, from like, let's say you have like a 2/2 and it's damage and it's a 2/1, and you play like a Pale Cascade and bring it up to a 3/2. After the Pale Cascade wears off, it's back to a 2/2. So it gives you that kind of pseudo healing effect that temporary buffs give. And it gives you a decent swing that turn. Garen on turn 5 can swing pretty well. Elite decks, if you want to be elite, have traditionally been mostly mono Demacia, so you might even be playing Bannerman too. So Bannerman into Garen is kind of scary, is all I'm gonna say. Now, you might say, maybe your board won't be that big. I don't know. I feel like you can flood a board pretty... Not as hard as, say, like a Bandle City or even a Bilgewater deck can because of Mirai Warden, but I feel like Demacia can flood pretty hard, especially if they're elites. So yeah, I'm scared of this buff. I think this buff actually probably is going to put Garen into playability. So yeah, he's just going to be... he's doing what he wants to do. He's going to be just a very difficult to deal with mid-rangey champion with a big payoff of his level up of rallying multiple times. Karma, I don't like this change. Karma now at level 2, she still has her level 1 effect. At the end of the round, just create a random spell from your regions. I think this is not a buff. I honestly think this is a nerf. Side grade at best, but I think this is kind of a nerf. One, there's a lot of bad spells in just Ionia, like the 10 mana recall the board except for the 1 unit you target. I think it's called like Children of the Forest, the 8 mana summon ephemeral copies of the biggest things that were recalled. There's some really bad spells like Death Mark. You might not even have something to Death Mark and it will just clog up your hand. You might say, why is that bad? The more and more cards that are clogging up your hand, the more and more dangerous it is for you to actually draw from your deck. Eventually your Karma will be like, I'm going to keep creating cards. So you're kind of drawing 2 a turn, but not really. And then your hand might be so full with uncastable spells or spells that you don't want to cast, like a Ruination until you get more value from it, that you just pass and you burn the top card of your deck, and it might be a great card. Reason number 2 is Karma's Champ spell. Karma in a lot of Karma decks, one of the ways Karma decks actually win is by casting her Champ spell multiple times. Inside of Ages, I believe, is the name of the spell. And you might say, like, okay, what's the problem here? Basically, it's back with the you need hand space. With Karma creating spells at the end of your round, it's a little tough to actually have enough space, because you're creating 4 cards with a level up Karma cast and casting Inside of Ages, and then she's creating more spells, and then you might not even be able to cast these spells. It's a little rough. Not a big fan of this change, really. Now, granted, Karma has not been in the best spot recently. Ezreal Karma is probably the best Karma deck out there, and it's kind of not good. Let alone spooky Karma decks, Karma Senna, Karma Thresh, Karma Kindred. They've been kind of trash recently as well. Because Karma, she just doesn't out late game as well as she used to out late game other decks. So yeah, not a fan of this. Don't think this will really change how much play Karma sees. I actually think it makes Karma see less play, in fact. Next card, Katarina. Not much to talk about here. Now though, kind of like Karma, Katarina still has her level 1 ability, so when you summon Katarina when she's level 2, she will create a 0-cost Fleeting Blade's Edge in hand. The 0 or the deal 1 to anything spell for normally 1 mana, but she makes it 0, so that's pretty nice. That's actually a buff. I won't say anything about it being like a nerf or anything. It's just a buff. It's kind of big, but I don't think this is enough to bring Katarina into the meta or Katarina fans. Now this change, though, LeBlanc change. So everything about LeBlanc is still the same, except now when LeBlanc levels up, she will just create a mirror image in hand right away. That's pretty big. That's actually really, really big. Mirror image is a very, very powerful spell. Sure, you might say, like, oh, I can remove whatever is being targeted. Yeah, of course. But copying things like, well, just LeBlanc's, Ashes, Severe's, any of the other big things, or even a Incisive Tactician, the 8-mana rally guy who costs 6 mana if you have Reputation active, that's a big card to copy. So just getting a mirror image right away is really, really big. Because to level up LeBlanc, you have to do 15. And currently, before the patch, you have to do another 15 to get the mirror image. That's 30 damage you have to do to both level up LeBlanc and get the mirror image. You would almost never see mirror image, and even when LeBlanc was getting played, LeBlanc was mostly just there as a stat stick. She was mostly there as a 3-mana 5/2 with quick attack. Now, though, you're going to see mirror image a lot more, and this is really scary. I'm kind of excited, kind of scared, though. Like, definitely some interesting strategies with copying strong summon abilities and maybe some last breath stuff. So I think this will be a big change, and this combined with the Ashe buff and maybe some other buffs might bring Ashe LeBlanc back into the field, especially if Garen and Elites make it into the meta. I think Ashe LeBlanc would be a great counter to Elites. I think Freezes would be really good at countering Elites, is what I'm saying. Next up, this one doesn't. This is nothing. Leona. Leveled up Leona now has Overwhelm. We've kind of seen this already a little bit. One patch, they accidentally gave level 2 Leona Overwhelm, and then they removed it and were like, yeah, sorry, that was a mistake. We were just testing out ways to buff Leona. Looks like they're actually giving Leona Overwhelm now. It doesn't really change much. I mean, I guess you can argue like Yasuo Leona, because now that she has Overwhelm, you can stun things that are blocking her. Yeah, it doesn't really change much. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. It is a buff. It's objectively a buff, but I don't think it's going to do too much. Leona has bigger problems than just not having Overwhelm. One of the problems is like there's not enough Daybreak payoff in my opinion, and I feel like while some Daybreak cards are decent like Solari Priestess and Ravun, there's just not enough reason for me to want to play Leona and a big Daybreak package when I can just take the good ones like Solari Priestess and maybe Solari Sunhawk, and not go for heavy Daybreak synergy and play things like Ravuna and Leona. Maybe if there was another Daybreak synergy card, maybe I would play a Leona deck, but I just don't see it. I'd rather just play Diana if I wanted to play a Daybreak deck. I think Diana and Nightfall is just stronger at controlling the board. This one's huge. Not just the champ, but this change is big. Malphite. Malphite now, when you play him, stuns an enemy. So he's got an Arachnoid Sentry summon now. That's big. Like, I honestly can't emphasize how huge that is. Will this make Malphite Yasuo a thing? No. Probably no, but I'm going to try it. I'm definitely going to try Malphite Yasuo. I love Yasuo. I like Targon. So I'm going to try out some Malphite Yasuo. But yeah, this is a big change in my opinion. Malphite always kind of had that problem where it's like, oh, I summon Malphite and I lose, like a lot of these big champions where you're just like, I spend a lot of mana to develop one unit. My opponent spends a lot of mana and develops like 5 units and open attacks, and I can only block one of them and I lose. Rip. But yeah, I like this change. I like this buff. It's a big buff and I think it's really strong. Next up, Nasus. Not really. I mean, it's a buff, but it's mostly just an unnerf. Nasus now has Fearsome on level 1 again. He originally had that. They removed it when Nasus Thresh was too good. And now that Nasus is kind of trash, it seems like they've given it back to him. So it's nice. I don't know if it would be good, but maybe Nasus Thresh can come back. Nasus Thresh always, back when it was dominant, it kind of had some good game against the more mid-rangey decks. It always bullied mid-range and aggressive decks in general. So if the meta does lean towards a mid-rangey unit piles just bashing each other in the face, maybe Nasus Thresh can come back. So like, you know, like LeBlanc Ashe, Garen Elites, and Nasus Thresh seem to be 3 mid-rangey decks to try out if you're a mid-range fan. Maybe Malphite Yasuo if you're a little spicy. Nocturne, this isn't really much. They basically did what they did with Maokai to Nocturne. Now, it used to be Nocturne would only give, level 2 Nocturne will only give -1/-0 to enemies if you play a unit. Now, if it's only if you summon a unit. Cool, thanks, whatever. It's like, cool, if you Vile Feast a unit, Nocturne will shrink some stuff. You should not play Vile Feast in Nightfall, I'll say that. Maybe in the future this will actually mean something, but there's not that many scenarios where this actually matters, I think, for Nocturne. You can be a little bit of a memer and play like, I can't remember the name of the card, the 2-mana Bilgewater spell that summons a powder at burst speed, because that technically would activate Nocturne, but then you're like a weird Nightfall, Shadow Isles, Bilgewater deck, and that just sounds awful. Oh, Scion. Scion's getting a buff. Not a big buff, just getting +1 attack, +1 power, whatever you want to call it. Cool, whatever. I mean, there's not much to talk about. It's a good buff, don't get me wrong. I like the buff. I've always been one of the people who were on the side of, I don't know why Scion got nerfed. I don't think Scion needed a nerf. Even when Scion Draven was a strong top tier deck, I was like, yeah, Scion Draven's strong, but it's more Twin Blade having Challenger was the main problem, in my opinion. I honestly think Scion could go back up to a 3/6 and be a 10/6 when he levels up. But it looks like they're just testing out the waters with this small little +1 power buff. So I like it. Feels nice. Really, I feel like a great way to buff Scion would just be give him back his power. Make him a 10/6 again when he levels, but slightly increase his level up. Make it so you have to discard like 38 power. Discard or summon 38 power. Because the problem with Scion himself was, or is, that he always seems to level up right away on 7. So, I don't know. Maybe they're fine with... Maybe that's what they want? So, whatever. Now, Udyr. Lots of changes to Udyr. So let's start off with the level up. They've completely changed his level up. Now, instead of damaging the enemy nexus, now you just have to play 3 stand swaps. Cool. Very cool. Kind of takes away some of the synergy in the Udyr pile. His champ spell doesn't really have synergy with him anymore. And Ram Stance doesn't really synergize well either, but whatever. They've also given him +1 power, so he's now a 5/4. I'd rather they give him more health, but I can see why they're not giving him more health, because he'd be kind of annoying with more health. So this means to level up Udyr, you have to play 3 stances. That means when you level up Udyr, at the bare minimum, he's going to be a 9/8. It's pretty big. So with the 2-mana 2/2 that gives you a stance swap, the new spell, and Udyr himself, I think Udyr actually levels relatively easily, but the other big problem is 3-mana stances are a lot of mana. I don't know, like that's still the biggest problem I feel with Udyr. I think Udyr is going to be more playable, like definitely more playable. Like, he's been garbage since release, so with this change, I think he's definitely a lot more playable. Is he good now? I want to say he's at least low tier 2, maybe mid tier 2. He's definitely not tier 1 in my opinion, but I feel like he'll be decently strong. Maybe like Udyr Sejuani with some stances seem cute. Then you can play like whatever you want as your secondary region, because that's just mono Freljord at the moment. Maybe even stay mono Freljord. There's not enough of a payoff though, in my opinion. So yeah, I like this buff. Strong buff. Vlad buff, whatever. He has fearsome now. Cool. Fearsome and regen when he levels up. It's whatever. Sure, Vlad was kind of like a level 1 Nasus and Malphite a bit and just gets chumped. This makes it harder to chump Vlad, but the problem with Vlad decks is not that he gets chumped. There's a lot of problems with Vlad decks, really. But still, nice buff. Okay, so that's all for the champs. Overall, cool. Some changes seem a little underwhelming in all honesty, like Galio just getting +1 health on level 2 is kind of underwhelming, but some of the changes, pretty big. Garen's a big change. Udyr is nice. Malphite buff is big. LeBlanc, love that buff as well. So seems nice. Seems like some good champion changes. So let's go on to the other cards, basically. Ambush is now 3 mana. Tri-beam, but more seriously, yeah, this is great. Don't play Tri-beam Ambush. I like this change though. I think this is a good change. Ambush always felt like a good way to reward augment units, and the reason I feel we didn't really see too much ambush is, one, there just weren't that many good augment units. So we had like what, Ballistic Bot, and that was it. And now that we have the Victor buff, now you have both Ballistic Bot and Victor. So then Ambush was getting played as a 2, even a 3-up sometimes. With the nerf to Ambush though, I still think you play it. I still think you will play like in your Victor piles, your Victor Ballistic Bot piles. I still think you're going to play at least 2 ambushes. It's too good of a win con. Ambush is not really a early game card, so while the mana increase is rough, it's one, you can still use only spell mana, so that's nice. It's usually a late game play, or at least mid game play, so the 1 mana's not making as much of a difference as, say, nerfing like an early game card. Of course, it's still a nerf though. And before you say, well, I'm going to switch to Sumpwork maps now. Don't play Sumpwork maps. I'm going to tell you right now, do not replace Ambush with Sumpwork maps in your Victor piles. You might say, but streamer, Sumpwork maps gives elusive, and it's 2 mana, and it's in PNZ. It also doesn't give +2/+0. That's a huge reason why you play Ambush. That +2 damage is like a free Mystic Shot to face if your opponent can't deal with an elusive unit, which, when you're playing Ambush, you're hoping they can't deal with an elusive unit. You hope they don't have like Hush or Quicksand or whatever. So next up, speaking of which, Ballistic Bot. It's now an 0/3 instead of a 1/3. It's fine. It's still a strong card. The only thing that's really changes is it's early game. Aggro players probably love this change. No longer can Ballistic Bot just come down on 2 and just stonewall 1 mana 2/1s. Sure, it can still block 1 mana 2/1s, but at least the aggro player's not losing their 2/1. But yeah, this is still doing great. It's still creating ignition, so it's still creating some extra burn, giving you discard fodder, giving you augment triggers too, so it's still a solid card. Yeah, I like the card. I still think it's fine. And I feel like Ballistic Bot has been needing a small nerf for quite a while. Always felt like a card that when it's good, it's really, really good. So I'm glad it's getting nerfed. I'm glad they didn't increase like the cost of ignition or change like how you get ignition. Maybe you can make it like whenever you get the attack token, you get ignition, or make bot 3 mana or lower it to 2 health. I feel like this is the best way to nerf bot without killing the card. Or like 2 health. Sorry, I meant 2 health, not 2 mana. I think 2 health bot would be trash and unplayable. Having a backline card just dying to ambush is a real feels bad kind of moment. Blood for blood. Cool, whatever. It's now burst speed instead of fast speed. So it's iterative improvement, but instead of giving your unit +1/+1 that you're copying, you have to damage a unit and have it survive. And it can't copy enemy stuff, like iterative improvement can. Sure, it's obviously meant to synergize with self-damage things like Scargrounds and the Crimson Gang, but those cards kind of suck. But it's still a pretty solid card. Decent off of Conchologist too if you want to play some weird like Vandal City Noxus value pile. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this along with Vlad getting fearsome might do something for Scargrounds, but I don't think so. So Sundisk. I like the nerf. I'll say that first off. Sundisk now, the Ascendeds when they level up only count down the Sundisk by 9, advance it by 9, whatever you want to call it, instead of 10. This means without countdown acceleration like Esteemed Hierophant, the fastest Sundisk you're going to be able to get is a turn 8 Sundisk, if I believe. Currently, it's turn 6 Sundisk. You level up both of your champions and have played them by turn 6, and you flip the Sundisk. Now, though, you can only do that by turn 8. I like this change. I didn't want to see Sundisk completely killed. I like the concept of the deck, and I like what it does, even though it kind of preys on decks I like. I do like that it's playable, and I like the role it plays in the game. Sundisk is still going to be a very strong deck, very strong choice. And with this change too, I feel like less players might actually play Sundisk, so that means less people will play anti-Sundisk decks, and that means Sundisk will actually be a little bit better? But yeah, this is the kind of nerf I wanted for Sundisk. Maybe not in this exact way, but I wanted them to slow down the Sundisk flip by a turn or two, and it seems they've slowed it down by 2 turns. Previously, I think the average Sundisk level up, Sundisk flip, was turn 7. Now, since they're not really changing how fast the champs level up, I think the average is now going to be increased to turn 8. Because I don't think turn 9 will be the average. I think turn 8 will be the new average. So I like it. But yeah, it does a good job of bullying control decks. Like that's what Sundisk does. It just bullies a lot of control decks. You're playing like whatever, some kind of control deck, and your opponent's like, okay, cool, Sundisk deck. And you're like, well, I have to either try to out-tempo them or destroy the Sundisk or go over the top of the Emperor's deck. And as a control player, trying to tempo someone is hard. And through Soothsayer and Counter Magic, it's really hard to destroy a Sundisk. And not that many control decks actually out late game Emperor's deck. But yeah, nice change though. Nice change. Callous Bone Crusher though. Callous Bone Crusher, 4 mana, 6/4. Okay. She was this before. Used to be she would cost 2 after Reputation was active. Now though, when Reputation is active, she will cost 3 instead. But now she gets Overwhelm if you summon her. So that means if she's already on the field and you activate Reputation, she won't get Overwhelmed. So that's cool. This card scares me. You might say like, oh, well, is it good? I think the way to look at this card is look at it and imagine it in the late game, because you're not getting Reputation till a little bit later into the mid to late game. This card's good. Even in like turn 7, turn 6, turn 8, somewhere around there. A 3-mana 6/4 with Overwhelm is very scary. Hard to kill with just spells. Sure, by around turn 7, it's getting blocked and traded off with a lot of units, but so what? It has Overwhelm. I mean, by now we've seen just how strong these kind of more aggressive keywords can be. Overwhelm, Elusive, Scout. So yeah, keywords are strong, is all I'm gonna say. And this Overwhelm is a strong keyword. And honestly, maybe you'll even play it in a non-reputation deck that can still trigger reputation somehow, like Freljord Shurima Overwhelm could maybe do this. Desert Duel in theory helps you activate reputation, like attack a vulnerable unit with Renekton and then Desert Duel, and then that's already 2 of your 4 triggers for reputation. Might be something there. So yeah, I'm scared of this card as a control player. It's a very scary card. Next up, Hayara Allseer. Still does the same thing as it did before, except now, instead of just creating the stance and making that one stance cost 0, now the first stance you cast each turn costs 0. Okay. Will you play this with Udyr? Yes, I think. I think this is a very big buff. You might say, like, it's 6 mana, streamer. That's very slow. Don't you have that rule where you're like 6 mana and higher cards have to do something very, very, very strong? Yes, but I'm kind of looking at this more of a boat. Like, sure, it's not drawing Udyr like other boats, like, you know, Leviathan, Albus Ferris, etc., but it synergizes well with the champion, with Udyr. So I'm trying to be like, so it's kind of like a boat where I'm trying to like get the champion and the boat on the field at the same time to get their synergy going. You know, like Swain Leviathan, Albus Ferris doesn't really need Jace on the field in all honesty. But if you have Allseer and Udyr on the field, Udyr gives you more stances. The Allseer makes them cost 0 the first time. That's pretty big. But yeah, the Allseer is still an expensive unit though, so I don't know, maybe 6 man's a little too fast, but I think it's good. You got Ram Stance to try and slow down the game. You're in Freljord, you can play Kindly Tavern Keepers, you got Avalanches. I think this card's solid. You also got like Blighted Ravines too, of course. Swiftling Lancer, not much to talk about here. It's just an elite now. Wasn't an elite before, it's now an elite. Last Breath create a random elite in hand. I don't think it will be able to create itself. I believe a few months ago they added it into the game, into the code, where cards that create cards can't create themselves because of Telescope, where people are just creating telescopes off of telescopes, and that was really annoying. So I assume Swiftling Lancer won't be able to create Swiftling Lancer on death. Maybe not, but I don't think so. But yeah, strong buff. Card's really strong too. Kind of just gets overlooked because of Screeching Dragon. I feel like if you're not playing anything with Elite synergy, you'd rather just play Screeching Dragon. But for Elites, this is a very solid choice for Elite decks. And Bandletree. I hate this card. It's dead. Good. Bandletree now costs 4 mana. However, now, for Bandletree to win the game, it has to see you summon those units, instead of previously where it didn't need to see you summon those units. It just kept count no matter where it was. The card is trash now. I'm sorry. I really don't think any deck wants to play this card. The Bandletree decks are just dead. I think anything that was a Bandletree deck just completely cuts Bandletree and just focuses on Yordle and Arms instead, if they want to be like mid-range, go wide, Bandle City stuff. I've had some people say like, oh, well, it still creates cards. It's still a value engine. Yeah, but what wants that value? Like, I could see some people are like, oh, compared to Howling Abyss. I'm like, well, Howling Abyss isn't good first off. But yeah, maybe like Howling Abyss. I don't know. It's still creating cards. It's still giving you value, but that's really slow too. I don't think you just throw this into a control deck as value. I feel like if you're in Vandal City and you want value, either play Darkness or play Shellfolk. Both of which are just, in my opinion, better value than Bandletree. Now you might say like, oh, this sucks. Isn't Bandletree was great at bullying control out? Sundisk is still around. Sundisk is just going to take the job of what Bandletree was doing, which was bullying control players. In all honesty, Bandletree was kind of doing that already. Sundisk had kind of pushed Bandletree out of the way, along with some other changes too, like some of the Vandal City cards. Still though, card is dead in my opinion, so that's nice. But maybe it'll be played in a slower, grindier, non-Shellfolk control deck, non-Shellfolk, non-Darkness control deck as a alternate win con. I could see that. But that seems really slow, and the game is not slow enough for that kind of game plan at the moment. Vanguard Squire now costs 3. I think this is actually a huge buff. Now you might say, streamer, it's just a 1 mana buff. Along with the Garen buff, though, you want to flood now in Elites. Like, Elites always kind of wanted to do that. They kind of wanted to build a snowball-y, go wide kind of game. Not like going wide as hard as, say, Vandal City, but they kind of wanted to do that. And with this card going down to 3, it's actually really easy to get it to 0 early on. Like, you play turn 1, you play an elite, like 1 mana Cytherea. Turn 2, another elite, whatever. Turn 3, another elite. Turn 4, you've played 3 elites. Vanguard Squire is 0 mana. Drop a Vanguard Squire, maybe even 2, and then Bannerman. And then turn 5, Garen. You're not doing much there. That is very, very uninteractive, solitary, and it's easy to disrupt that, and you kind of need a good hand. But in theory, that's kind of scary, in my opinion. Now you might say, well, what if I want to play a non-elite like Fleet Feather? Yeah, of course. But I still think this is a big buff, though. This, along with the other elite changes and the Garen buff, really, really make me scared of just elites in general. Next up, Yordle in Arms. Still a good card. It's only giving +3/+3 instead of +4/+4. Still solid. 5 mana is... It being 5 mana is really one of its strengths, so still a good card. Not much to talk about here. Next card, Dragon's Protection, is now Focus Speed. Cool. You get this card from Scales of the Dragon, I think is the card's name. The 3 mana 4/2. It creates this card in hand. It going up to Focus Speed is really, really nice, in fact. Like, huge buff. Will I be playing Scales of the Dragon in my decks? Maybe in my Karma decks, but yeah, honestly, I'm not even sure if I want to play Karma after the Karma quote-unquote buff. Shadow Apprentice. Cool. It used to be was a 1-mana 1/1, and when you summon it and you have an ephemeral on the field, it's +1/+1, so it'd be a 2/2 elusive for 1 mana. Now, when you summon an ephemeral, it gets +1/+0 for the round. Kind of a weird, like, just a complete change here now, which, does this do anything? I honestly don't think so. But maybe like a weird Hecarim, Shadow Isles, Ionia ephemeral deck can do something. Maybe Hecarim Zed even? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this change, but I like that they're trying something here with this card instead of just letting it be bad. So that's nice. It's cute. And now for the big stuff. The game rule changes. First off, burst passing doesn't exist anymore. If you didn't know what burst passing was, you would basically play a burst speed or focus speed spell, something cheap like a gem or I don't know, a super cool star chart or a moon silver or something, pass to your opponent, and you basically pass priority to them while barely using any mana to try and make your opponent make a misplay. In high level, you would see a lot of higher level players doing it, and even lower skill level players doing it, but a lot of the time it was just not really... It was just kind of useless, but it was kind of a skill test, so I'm kind of upset that they're getting rid of it. But it's whatever. It really only punished, like, burst passing only punished bad players and players who didn't have a good amount of knowledge of the game. So yeah, if your opponent now passes after playing only a burst or focus spell, you may now end the round, unlike what it was before. Now this is one that's scary. Cast is merging with play. So when a card leaves your hand into play or onto the stack, that's playing a card. Now, cast cards are being adjusted to activate when you play a card, and targeting now activates when you play a card. So this means things like Fated will activate right away when you target a card. So let's say you have like a Saga Seeker and a single combat. Currently, if you play single combat on the Saga Seeker, the single combat has to resolve first before Fated goes off. With this change, Fated will go off and then single combat will resolve. This also means that even if you counter the single combat, or the single combat just fizzles for some reason, it doesn't matter. The Fated still gives the +1/+1. Also Ezreal. Ezreal, oh boy. Used to be your opponent, the Ezreal player, would cast a spell. And before Ezreal dealt damage, if it was a fast speed spell, of course, you would have a priority window to do something to Ezreal. Hush Ezreal, kill Ezreal before that spell went off and Ezreal dealt his damage. With the way the rules are changing now, once your opponent confirms casting that spell, playing that spell now, I should actually say that. I'm going to say cast so much still. But once your opponent plays that spell and confirms it, Ezreal will just do the damage right away before the spell even resolves. Basically, burst speed damage. So that's terrifying in all honesty. And then it also means Jace and Karma are kind of nerfed. Because the second spell from Jace and Karma aren't technically being played, because they're being copied. So what's this mean? Stuff like, I don't know, Albus Ferris won't count the second Jace spell. Nice buff kind of for Lux too, but also a nerf to Lux Karma, because that second Karma spell won't count towards Lux, I think. Not really sure on that. But there's a lot to digest with this rules change. Now, I'm not a competitive player. I'm more of a casual competitive player. I mostly just like to climb ladder, and that's it. I feel bad for all the actually competitive players, you know, the tournament players, because seasonals are happening in a couple of weeks, and they got to learn all of these nuances all over again. So good luck to them. But yeah, there's a lot of changes there. Also, some new visual effect updates here. Nothing too crazy here. We can even watch the video. Basically some more, like, it makes it clear who's attacking, who's blocking. You see over here on the right, there's like a little sword and stuff. There's also a gem here now to symbolize passing and stuff, and priority closing and priority windows and whatever. There's also a shield now for the blockers, so that's nice. There's shields on the defending units. I think the ghost blockers are a little clearer now. I think they are going to show it off too with this whirling death to remove misfortune, which I like. I like these things. Just making things a little clearer and easier to read is great for the more casual players. Not really changing too much. But yeah, like right here, I think once all of this happens, yeah, like it's a little clearer for these ghost blockers now. So that's kind of nice. But again, I don't really care. I'm like, this is definitely for the more beginner players, the newer players, the more casuals, like I said. So that's nice. A little more ease of access to bring people in. So I like it. Big fan of this kind of stuff, but I don't care too much because it's not really changing anything that affects me, in all honesty. Anyway, last little bit before we can end this video. We got some new skins based on Arcane. We got some Arcane Vi. She's very cute. We got Arcane Jinx as well, very cute as well. Got their leveled up versions as well, so very, very nice, very cute looking skins here. They're free too, so you know you're going to see these skins all over whenever you see someone playing Vi or Jinx. Make sure to log in each day to get your free daily logins, of course. And then they're updating some of the older skins too. I like this change. This is a change I've really wanted for a while, where they just update the champion spells, so the champion spells have new art with skins. So it's nice, like Yasuo, Lux, etc., etc. It's nice. It's nice. Pool Party Draven skin. But yeah, and then of course new emote as well, free emote. So you're gonna see this around. Perfect to BM with, but I like it. Very cute. New card back, it's free as well. New icon, also free. Very cute. Chips looking like a happy little rock. And another new icon as well. And I believe that is it. Couple of bug fixes as well, but they're not really... nothing really too major in terms of balance, in terms of bug fixes. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. Long video, but we had a very big patch. There was a lot to go over between just the cards alone and then the rule changes, along with the other odds and ends at the very end. So yeah, that's it for the balance patch. Seen a lot of people, a decent amount of people say like they hate it. I don't hate the patch. I like it overall. Not really sure on my opinion of the burst pass change. I feel like I'm a little biased because I'm a control player and I loved burst passing, but in all honesty, even I was like, yeah, I'll burst pass just because it doesn't really change anything. So it's fine. It's whatever. It speeds up the game too, which is something Riot likes to do, which is just make the game a little more fluid. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for today's video. Patch should be live in a couple of hours from now from when I upload this video. You can check me out over on my Twitch account if you want to watch me play it. It's twitch.tv/Sanitin. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like or a comment down below. Always helps me out and helps out the channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the balance changes and what you guys think about it. And if you guys want to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content, I should be playing and uploading a lot of new decks using these newly balanced cards. You can always subscribe to the channel as well. And if you want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, going to be playing a lot of it with this balance patch, you can go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zenitin, where I stream pretty much every single day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye!